Hello and welcome to Up Dog Sports Talk. We are here today, the day after the College Football National Championship game. College football is over, but we're not here to be sad about that. We're actually here to celebrate. And I'm joined today by Bobby Wilson of the TNT College Football Podcast. You may know him. You may be tuning in because you're a follower of his or because you know both of us. And you may know him for his college football podcast. But Bobby, that isn't your first love, is it?
It's not. It's not. Basketball has been a huge, huge blessing in my life. It was my first love, the first thing that I ever did. I was blessed to be fortunate enough and good enough as a player to do some things. Basketball's taken me to different countries. It's just been a real blessing. Being able to go to Grand Valley State, being a part of an amazing team, an amazing program. We beat Michigan State. We did some great things there. We had some really, really solid dudes that played professional basketball. It's a blessing to be around those guys and a part of such a great program. And it led me into coaching, where I was a Division III assistant coach and then interim head coach on two different occasions. I was a high school coach for a while as well, and then I served as a JUCO coach as well. So I've kind of coached on multiple levels. I was a women's coach. I have coached men as well at the JUCO level. I was an assistant for both the men's and women's team at the time for a year before making the shift entirely to coaching women's basketball, which is something that I absolutely love. If it's an opportunity that was ever presented to me in the future, I'd love to dive back into it. I stepped away when COVID hit to be with my wife and my son at the time, and now we have two daughters as well. So we have a very busy household. But my wife played college basketball. She made a professional team. She decided not to do it. So basketball has been. I mean, we met because of basketball, so it's obviously a kind of a big thing for us. We don't ever push it on our kids, but I think we're also like, hey, try this round ball because it worked for you and for mom and dad. So yeah, I mean, obviously, I talk about football now. It's great and everything, and I love that. I love doing that. But basketball will always be my first love.
Yeah, basketball is such a great sport, and that's a really cool story about all of that. Like I didn't even realize your wife and you met through that, so that's pretty cool. Obviously, I'm sure you know it's on in the house a lot, and maybe that'll influence some future basketball players down the line, both on the men's and women's side.
Yep, yep. We'll see.
But yeah, so we're in for a treat tonight. Obviously, having your college basketball expertise on the show, we'll be kind of diving into the top contenders, some of the top contenders to look for this year when March Madness rolls around. Some of the conferences that have impressed us so far, and then also we love the mid majors here, so we are going to be diving into some of the best mid majors to keep your eye on, teams that could really pull the upset this year. Some great players and coaches to keep an eye out for. Along with, we are also going to be highlighting some of the local teams around us. Obviously, Bobby out in Missouri Valley area. I'm in the in the Midwest where the Horizon League is. So we kind of talk about those leagues. We talk about even all the way down to the NEC tonight. So it'll be a pretty awesome show. But we'll go ahead and start from the top here. Some of the top contenders, we've got quite a few teams that have been really impressive. We still have three undefeated teams. The first of those, Arizona Wildcats. I mean, this team's been the wagon so far. Bobby, what do you see from this team that just makes them so special?
They guard at a really high level. I mean, Arizona's always known for their offense, and obviously they can score the ball. They got dudes on that team. They got future lottery picks, and Pete is an absolute stud as a freshman. I mean, that young man is he's fantastic. He's a really really solid player. But they got other dudes on that team, and the thing I think that's always kind of held them back is that kind of defensive aspect where they haven't really got down and defended when they've absolutely had to. And thus far this year, they've kind of locked into doing that at a higher clip, and I think that's really helped them. Like you saw that, especially in the game against UConn. Like obviously they scored, they did what they needed to do, but when you're playing UConn in Connecticut, especially, they had to get stops, and they had to get key stops in key situations, and they were able to do that. So I've been very very impressed by them. Like I said, that they're going to be able to score the ball, but it's that step that they've made on the defensive end that's really helped.
Yeah, absolutely. That definitely gives them more staying power come March because, like you said, sometimes the defense let them down. It feels like so far under Tommy Lloyd, they've not gone as far as we're usually expecting them to go. But yeah, I think what's on the defensive side really makes a difference for them. I think that could kind of transition us to UConn. Last year was kind of a brief slip after UConn took over the college basketball world there for a little bit. Last year they kind of dropped off, ended up an 8 seed, lost an intense game to the eventual national champions, Florida. What do you see in the Huskies this year? They clearly seem to have their fastball back.
Absolutely. I think the issue that they sometimes have, in my personal opinion, is sometimes they just don't have that killer instinct, and it just when they have an opportunity to completely run away with a game, they kind of played with their food a little bit, which is interesting to see because Hurley teams don't usually do that. Obviously, this is a different makeup of guys. You got some younger guys, and then you got some guys that haven't played at this high of a stage, let's say. Um, but you look at the sum of the pieces and everything that's put together there. That's a program that I trust moving into March as things get going. The Big East isn't as good this year as it's been. I firmly believe that they're going to put themselves in a place to have some really good success. Obviously, they guard at a good level, and we know they're going to run their sets to death, and they're going to beat you into submission, and that's what they do, and they do a really, really good job.
Absolutely. This is definitely going to be a tough team to pick against, depending on how the bracket shakes out. But so far, they definitely look to be really good, especially like you said on that defensive end. They are relentless on that side of the ball. We can go to another team that is undefeated. What is the surprise stories of the sport? The Nebraska Cornhuskers still have never won an NCAA tournament game in their program's history, and they continue on the track they're on. Either we're going to see a crazy upset or they're going to get that done. What do you think about
I
the
think it's pretty.
Cornhuskers?
I think we could say that they're going to get the tournament win this year. In all seriousness, though, I mean they're a really good basketball team. I think it's really cool to see, like, you see Indiana win the football national championship yesterday. Everybody knows Indiana is a basketball school. Everybody knows Nebraska is a football school. Now they're undefeated in basketball. So it's just tremendous to see those kind of changing of the guards, let's say. But Nebraska is they're just one of those teams that they do all the things the right way. I think you look at them, they're not going to be the most talented team on the floor each and every game, but they're going to have guys. They're just dudes. They're just playing hard. They uh, they do what Coach Hoiberg is telling them and asking them to do, and that's another thing. They have fantastic leadership, as all these upper echelon teams do. But Coach Hoiberg has been there and done that at a high level. At a program like a Nebraska that's kind of out there and not necessarily known as like a powerhouse. So it's just really cool to see what they've become. And I know a lot of people kind of look at them and say, "Oh, who have they played or whatever?" But I mean, they beat Michigan State. They beat some legit teams. I mean, they're not going anywhere.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that Michigan State game was such a huge one too. Like that was I think they went through the non-conference, like they won some impressive games there. But then you get that Michigan State win, and it's like, oh, okay, here we go. Like this team is actually for real. And one of the last three undefeated teams. I mean, what an incredible story. Fred Hoiberg finally has things cooking there. Like it was a very exciting hire at the time. It's like, okay, here we go. Nebraska's invested in basketball. They improved right away. But then it was like, okay, when are they going to win in the tournament? I think we're here.
I think we're there.
We could stay in the Big Ten. The Michigan Wolverines. Now, this team just started the year on fire. I mean, just absolutely steamrolled everyone in their path. But then came the shocking loss to Wisconsin. So, what do you like about this team? This will be a long-winded question here. What do you like about this team, and especially what you saw from in those early impressive victories? And what have you seen down the recent stretch here that maybe makes them more vulnerable than they originally looked?
Well, I will try to say this as unbiasedly as I can because growing up as a kid, Michigan was the program I wanted to play for and be a part of. That's thanks to my dad um, being there, going there, and such. Um, they are when they're clicking, Michigan is the best team in the country. Offensively, when they're clicking, the teams can't touch them. Then they lock down defensively in a way that is it's suffocating. And they when they hired Dusty May, I texted one of my best friends and I said, Michigan's going to win a national championship under Dusty May, and it's going to happen fairly quickly. Now, I don't know if I knew it would happen in just a couple of years, like it could happen this year. But Dusty May, what he did at FAU, you give him the resources that Michigan has. I mean, the sky's the limit, and he's proven that. He's done a tremendous job in the transfer portal, especially this year. He hit on all of those guys. I mean, Lindenborg is arguably the best player in college basketball. Cadeau has been tremendous. You can go down the line. There's other guys too. I don't need to mention all of them, but when they were rolling, um, they were just playing at such an unbelievable level. As a player and a coach, you know that that's not sustainable. You know you're not going to do that for an entire season. It's just. I mean, you just can't. But they were beating highly ranked teams. I mean, they killed Gonzaga. I mean, they killed everybody they played. They were winning every game by 30 or 40 points. When you get into conference play, all these teams know you, and they've scouted you to a level that would seem to most people would be insanity. I've been there as a coach. I mean, you do it. It's an exhausting process, but you do what you got to do. So I'm not surprised by like what some of these teams have done. Now, am I surprised that they lost at home against Wisconsin? Sure. I expected those losses to come on the road. The Penn State game in particular, I'm not necessarily as surprised by that because that's probably the most difficult place to play in the Big Ten just because it's out kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's just always that obscure game that a lot of teams in the Big Ten have trouble with. Now, obviously, Michigan has some extremely difficult games moving forward. Obviously, Purdue, Illinois. You go down the line of all the ranked Big Ten teams that they're going to have to play, um, and you know it's coming. Um, just to just like I said, to sustain the success that they were having, it just wasn't. It's just not feasible. But at the same time, like you know that they can get to that level at any point if they're clicking. So to me personally, and I know I'm a little biased, like I said, but to me they've been the best team thus far. And I know they have a loss, and I know Arizona doesn't. I just feel like if they played on a neutral floor, I'm going to pick Michigan right now. I would pick Michigan.
Yeah, yeah, it's going to be very interesting. Like, I mean, for a few weeks there, it was like, man, when can we just get to Arizona, Michigan,
Right,
and the national
right.
title? But yeah, now with the one loss, we'll have to see how it pans out. I mean, there's a few elite teams here.
Hmm.
But yeah, Dusty May is an impressive coach. Like the FA, what he did at FAU, and just like completely transformed that program, got them to the Final Four was just so impressive. Um, I figured, he was going to be a fantastic hire for wherever he ended up.
Hmm.
Um, I certainly think some people down here in Ohio are probably like, okay, we hired some guy internally while while Michigan got Dusty Bay. So I know some people are down here in Ohio are probably not happy about that, but hey, Michigan took their shot on it and they made the big hire, and that team is really, really good.
Yeah, they are. And personally, I thought he was going to go to Indiana as an alum. But sometimes
Yeah.
as an alum, you don't necessarily, I mean, especially a program like Indiana, you have to win. and if you don't, like they're gonna like you're just gonna get fired. That and honestly, almost every job you take now at this point, you're gonna get fired. Like that's just it's the name of the game. But I understand why he might not have wanted that job because that is a very, very, very difficult position and situation because you're trying to like get that program back to a level that's probably not feasible. I don't think Indiana or any team is ever going to be like what they were. What they were in the 70s, 80s, and such. I mean, they were at such a completely different level than the rest of college basketball. I just don't think the transfer portal and NIL and all that allows for that to happen anymore. So I think that plays a huge role into it. And so I think like him taking the Michigan job in particular made sense for him because you're still in an elite program, but you're not in a position where you're going to have like this outside noise continuously bombarding you with the things that come with that Indiana job.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it ended up making a lot of sense. We could stay in the Big Ten. Purdue also looking very impressive. I believe only one loss, oddly enough, at home to Iowa State. What are you seeing from the Boilermakers so far?
They are who they are, and they're always going to be that. They're extremely well coached. I mean, that one game they lost to Iowa State is perplexing. I watched that game, and it was kind of like one of those things where you're just like, man, it wasn't their day. Clearly, I mean, you have those games where it's not your day. In Iowa State, it was their day. Clearly, I mean, it's one of those things where those kind of things happen from time to time. But ever since then, I mean, they just do what they're supposed to do. They beat teams that they're supposed to beat. They handle them. Sometimes it's a little closer than what people would like, but that's just the brand of basketball that they play. They're not going to ever wow you. They're just going to play basketball the right way. That's how Matt Painter does things. They're always just going to have big dudes and like smart players, and they just do things the right way. They're the type of team that, my personal opinion as a former coach, that they would be a coach's dream, honestly, because you just got a bunch of guys out there playing as a team, doing the things the right way, and doing what you ask them to do, and they do it at an elite level, obviously. So just my personal opinion, it just as a coach, you would love it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of funny to see them evolve a little bit. They had the rough couple of years there where they lost in the tournament to St. Peter's, and then the following year to Fairleigh Dickinson. I kind of feel like you saw them evolve after that, and now you're seeing a little bit. I believe stronger guard play out of them is
Yes,
what we're
yes,
seeing, and less of the because for a long time, like I don't know what their pitch was, but they had a monopoly on those guys that were 7'3" and taller. but
that they
but
did.
yeah, but yeah, so it's definitely a different Purdue than what you got used to at that point, but still a very very impressive team. And I mean, we could transition right to Iowa State. The Cyclones obviously off to they were one of the last five undefeated teams. Very hot start. Obviously had the very impressive win that we just mentioned against Purdue. Cyclones kind of had a rough week last week. They just finally got themselves back on the right track tonight when we are recording this podcast. What do you think about the Cyclones?
I wonder if the Big 12 is just gonna kind of cannibalize itself, kind of like what the Big 10 used to do, and it's what the Big Ten has struggled with recently as well, from the perspective of like they all beat each other up. So then when it comes to March, it's just so hard for them to win because they're all just beat up and gassed. And I wonder, with the Big 12 being elite like it is, if that's going to take the toll on Iowa State and some of those other upper echelon teams in that conference. But you watch Iowa State, and they're fun. They're fun to watch. Like that's a team that's an exciting group, and I always kind of look at them like in the past, like they've always been like. I hope this isn't taken as a derogatory term, but kind of like a renegade type program where they've just added transfer guys from all over the place and kind of done things that way. And it helped. It worked for like Hoiberg when he was there, and like Steve Prohm when he was there, and some of the other guys that were there. And I think that like what they have going right now. One, they're extremely well coached. They do things the right way, but they just have athletes all across the board. And when you have the type of athletes that they have, it makes the things that they can do defensively a lot of fun. And we see that night in, night out. But there's going to be times I think where they're going to, like this past week, where they're going to run into some stretches, especially in conference play, where they're going to play teams that can defend at the level that they can, where their offense might not flow as well. And I think we kind of saw that this past week. So they're an elite team. They're one of those teams that can go win the national championship, but they're one that I look at and say, like, when they need to, like, get a bucket in a half court situation, what are they going to look to do? And obviously, they have guys that can do it. I mean, they're one of the best teams in the country. But comparing to them to some of the other teams that we've just talked about, that's one thing where I might look at them and question it compared to some of the other teams.
Yeah, they kind of feel like a team with a very high upside, but they kind of come in, especially when you get to a tournament setting, like kind of come in with a little bit of risk. I feel like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how that goes. I'm amazed how many teams there are that only have like a couple losses at this point. The Duke Blue Devils are another one of those. Obviously, this is kind of, I feel like, one of your usual where they have the talented freshmen. What are you seeing from them so far?
Well, Boozer's as good as it gets, and just get him the ball and let him do stuff. I mean, it helps when you have the best player on the floor night in, night out. I mean, you don't have to be too smart of a coach to kind of like just say, "Hey, give it to the future NBA potential number one pick, and just get out of the way." But it's not just him; they got other guys too. Obviously, I think Coach Shire has done a really good job kind of growing into the role. I think at the beginning he was a little bit over his head, um, as anybody would. I mean, you're following arguably the greatest coach ever in Coach K. But you look at what he's been able to do over the past few years, and I applaud him for what he's been able to do there because that's the type of situation that you go into and you're like you're following, like I said, arguably the greatest coach ever, and you're put in a situation that's extremely difficult, and you're probably going to get fired. But the way he's doing things now, I mean, he he's taken it he's taken a big step. And I think this is a team that can win the whole thing because they have really good guard play, they have an elite player, they have all the pieces of like those vintage Duke teams. So I really, as much I've never been a Duke fan. I respect them obviously, and I respect what they've done and what they do. And I know they're a team that you either like or hate. That's kind of how it just is for most people. But I respect what they've done, and like I said, this is one of the. I think this team has a better chance to win the whole thing than even like that Zion Williamson led team. Just because Zion was elite, obviously, but the pieces around him necessarily weren't. Where like Boozer's elite, but the pieces around him are also maybe not elite, but they're really, really good.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is definitely. It's kind of weird that it feels like they've kind of gone under the radar a little bit.
Right, right.
Like what Duke is under the radar. But yeah, like I think because of some of these other undefeated teams, they kind of have dropped below the radar a little bit. But the Blue Devils, they're right in there. Um, we go to another team that you're used to seeing up here, the Gonzaga Bulldogs. Now, their only loss was to Michigan by a lot, but otherwise, Gonzaga's been rolling so far. What do you think about this team?
You watch them, and it's like, of course, I watched the Michigan game closely. And you're like, man, how did they get steamrolled that bad with the level of talent that they have? Feels like the big man's been there for 100 years, but he's solid. Obviously, you know what you're getting night in, night out from him. You're gonna get a double double almost every night. But you got multiple NBA guys. That's the big thing with them, and that's what they've turned into. And I think the big thing for them, especially this season and moving forward, is their conference has really taken a step up, and that really really helps them. They're obviously getting everyone's best test every night because it says Gonzaga across the chest. But now, like the teams that they're playing against are legit. Like St. Mary's has always been like one of those legit teams, but now you got Santa Clara, who's really good. San Francisco is solid. Seattle U has made a major step when they made the jump to the WCC. Washington State's competitive. Like you got multiple teams in that league that are just giving them a battle every single night. To the level where before it was literally them and St. Mary's, where now it's like okay, almost every night they're getting battle tested. I mean, even Pacific this year is significantly
Yeah.
better. So that league itself has really taken a step, which is really good to see because I mean, obviously Gonzaga is going to be leaving the league. There's rumors of some other teams as well. We'll see, but I think that league is in a very, very good spot moving forward even with Gonzaga gone. And I think from a national perspective too, a lot of people don't necessarily, as they shouldn't. Gonzaga's not a mid major; they're a high major. They're competing with all those teams. When you've been to Final Fours and title games like they have, you are that now. But the rest of the teams in their league have really taken a step, and I applaud them for that. But when you look at this team in particular, like you got NBA guys.
Yeah.
So night
Absolutely.
in, night out, you're always going to have an opportunity. And in March, they have good. Gonzaga has good guard play, and that we know what leads you in March is good guard play. So they're going to have a chance in every single game they play.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Gonzaga's on like a crazy streak of at least making it to Sweet 16 for like the last, I can't remember how many years it is, but definitely a very reliable pick to at least make it that far. And when you make it that far,
Right.
make it to the second weekend, you've got a chance.
Anything's
Um,
possible at that point.
yeah, 100%. And one of the bigger surprises, Vanderbilt, also one of the last five undefeated teams. Are the Commodores the best team in the SEC this year?
I don't know. And I think that's a terrible answer to give you. I think the SEC is just it's very even this year, where there's no I don't know if I should say that there's no great team, but there's a lot of really, really, really good teams that I think they're just all going to beat each other up, and we've kind of seen that already. Vanderbilt, I mean, you got to give them credit what they've done in a very quick time frame. I know in the non-conference people questioned a little bit, but they came into SEC play guns blazing, beat some really good teams. But you look at them, and I, when I look at them, I think you got to prove it to me first before I'm going to say they're the top team in the league. Just because we've seen the other teams do it, and I know in the world of NIL and the portal and stuff, things change fluidly so quickly, so teams can change and such. Watch what Indiana football has done, obviously, but teams can change in the blink of an eye. But until, like I said, I got to see it first. I'm very, very impressed by the pieces, the sum of all the things that they've put together this year. Um, but again, I'm wait and see on them personally.
Yeah, I get it. And obviously, I think they just lost to Florida this past weekend, so took another took another loss there. But I mean, they did a solid job. Like their non-conference was kind of one of those that like it was very different than what you usually see. Like a lot of the teams in the Power Four lately, you've kind of seen them do. They play some big headliners on neutral sites to hack the net, and then otherwise, they just play a bunch of Q4 games at home. Vanderbilt kind of did it a little bit differently. Like they played a lot more of those teams that fall in the Q2, Q3 range. They were a little bit more willing to take on some of the top mid majors where some other teams weren't. So I do have to respect them for that at least.
Right,
Obviously,
right,
like we'll kind of wait and see like what we can expect from this team.
exactly. And I applaud them for doing that because there's not very many teams that are doing that anymore. So kudos to Vanderbilt, the coaching staff, for going out there and playing some of those teams that could have beat them, and it looks bad. But at the same time, like they beat those teams, and those are solid wins. Maybe not so to like fans that don't watch the game as closely, but they beat some really really solid mid-major teams that people might not necessarily know about, but you got to give them a lot of credit.
Yeah, 100%. So I could kind of transition to us to our next topic here. We'll kind of go into some conferences that are making headlines so far. Let's start out with the Big 12. I mean, the Big 12 was extremely impressive in the non-conference part. I mean, they sent the SEC to the woodshed after the SEC had an impressive non-conference the year before. Just an extremely deep league, so many good teams. We have some of the teams we mentioned before, Arizona and Iowa State. You've even got other teams like BYU, Houston, and Texas Tech. How about this? How about the Big 12 so far?
And all three of those teams that you mentioned can make it to the Final Four. That's the crazy part too. Like this league is so good, it's so deep that like BYU for instance. I mean, they have arguably the number one pick in the draft. Bonsa is special. I mean, he can do things that most guys can't do. He's a man amongst boys almost nightly. Um, but you look at the way that they play, like offensively, they're so gifted. Can they stop teams
Yeah.
though? The elite teams is going to be the question, especially come tournament time. But I don't question that they're going to go out there and score. And obviously, come tournament time, that's very beneficial. I mean, obviously, the name of the game: you score more points than the other team, you're going to win. And most of the time, they're going to do that, just because they are so gifted offensively. You look at Texas Tech, you kind of know what they're going to do. They're going to guard the heck out of you, and they do a great job at it. And like Toppin's an NBA player, so you got some really, really solid pieces there on top of elite defense. And then Houston, I mean, you already know that they're going to defend at an elite level because Calvin Sampson's not going to allow anything else than that. So those three teams in particular are like I almost would pick those three to get to the Final Four over Iowa State right now, just because I kind of trust them a little bit more. I know that might sound kind of odd, but just my personal opinion. But then you look at some of the other. I mean, you look at Kansas. Kansas is always going to be in the running, always pushing for a Big 12 title, and there's so many other teams that you can go down the line. Like, how many teams are going to get in the tournament from this league? 12. I mean, it's there's like it's there's a very legitimate chance that they could even get more than that. It's just insane.
Yeah, and like there's really hardly any breaks in the schedule either because like you
Right.
even look at the teams towards the bottom, like UCF isn't really known as a basketball power. They've stepped it up lately. I mean, I think they only have like two, three losses this year. They beat Kansas. So like they're looking really impressive so far. You've got you've got West Virginia kind of stepping it up a little bit with the new coach there. Oklahoma State has improved a lot this year. They're kind of a team that looks like they're going to hover around the bubble. I mean, you even got like Cincinnati might be the worst team in the conference right now, and they just took down Iowa State the other day. So like you really just don't get a break in this league.
You don't at all. It's like you're just continuously night in, night out. It's just a battle every single night. And it's great for us fans to watch, and it, that's why I said earlier, like, is this league so good and so dominant that they're just gonna beat each other up to the point where come March it could be an issue? I think that's something to watch moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, we've seen it a little bit before. Like you've seen a few. Like the only time that Houston has not gone, using Houston as an example, the only time Houston's not gone on a really long tournament run under Kelvin Sampson since he got that thing rolling was the years that they kind of got beat up a little bit and had some injuries entering the tournament. I think back to what was it? Was that 2021, 2022, when they were a one seed and got upset by the Miami Hurricanes.
Yeah, with Marcus Sasser because he got hurt.
Yeah.
I believe that was that. Yeah,
Yeah. Other than that, like usually Houston, you look at Houston seed and you can usually predict them to go as far as the seed tells you, and maybe then some. That was like
right.
the only year where it felt like they really underachieved, and that was because they just dealt with so many injuries.
Exactly.
But yeah, if these teams stay healthy, I mean, they're all a lot. These are a lot of squads to watch when it comes to the NCAA tournament. Like, there's so many good teams, like you said. Obviously, I think BYU might be the one that concerns me the most, just because of the defense. We saw them get eliminated last year because they just simply got outscored by Alabama. So it'll be kind of interesting to see what we get out of them this year. But again, like, there's a lot of good teams.
Absolutely, the league sets up for like they could make they could have 3 out of the 4 Final Four teams being from the Big 12. I mean, it's extremely, like we said, I mean, it's extremely deep. Like there's night in, night out. There's no cupcake.
Yeah, absolutely. We could go to a conference that now we covered the dominant conference. Time to go to the more underrated conference. This one is from my neck of the woods here, but the MAC is not getting enough respect for how good the conference is. It performed very well in. I feel like a lot of MAC teams perform well in the non-conference slate. You've got a really good top tier teams. Well, I mean, we got to start with the headliner here. The Miami Redhawks, 20-0, 20-0 on the season. This team is just it is a fun story to follow. If you're tired of the portal era in college basketball, college sports, this team completely defies that. This is a group of kids that have stuck around, played together. They pass the ball really well because they're all on the same page, and just have worked in the same system together, worked at getting better instead of going to a new place and learning new stuff every year. Um, and they decided we like it here, like Ian Elmer, for example, has mentioned multiple times. He said, the grass isn't greener on the other side. It's good to be here and play with a group of guys that I like playing with. And I mean, if you're missing the way that college sports used to be, this Miami team should be who you're rooting for. It's such a great story.
And they're really good too. I mean, they're like it's Suter is what he's doing, just filling it up. I mean, he might have an NBA future with what he's accomplished thus far this year. I mean, he's a stud. But it's like you said. I
Yeah,
mean, they all you just watch them play, and you can tell that they've played together for so long. Just because they read and react to what's going to happen, and they know where their guys are going to be, what they're supposed to be, and that's a coach's dream when you got that. I mean, they added Almar Allison from Bradley, and he's kind of stepped in and done a serviceable job. But at the same time, like you got so many guys on that team who know what their role is, and they fill it to the best degree, and it's just it's so fun to watch. And like I was
yeah,
telling you, like before we came on the air, like when I was at Grand Valley State, the MAC was not very good. And Grand Valley's a Division II. We beat Michigan State, and I felt like we would have won the MAC that year. That is not the case this year. The MAC is very good this year. Like Miami, Ohio is a very, very good team. They just beat Kent State tonight, who's a very, very, very good team. Akron just killed Buffalo at Buffalo tonight. Buffalo almost beat Miami on, was it Saturday? So I mean, the top of this league this year is absolutely tremendous. Night in, night out, you're getting battle tested. I mean, yes, the bottom there it can be rough. It is what it is. But when you have the top teams in the conference playing each other, like tonight, you saw probably the top four teams playing each other. Especially the Kent State Miami game, that was an unbelievable atmosphere, and it was a fantastic basketball game. I would even argue everything has to play out. Obviously, Miami Ohio has 20 wins already; they're 20-0. I would say that there is a real possibility where the MAC could get two teams in the tournament.
yeah, and in fact, it should. Some people are going to complain about Miami's non-conference schedule, but that was completely out of their control. We've kind of touched a little bit already how non-conference basketball in the sport is kind of broken right now because everyone's just out to manipulate the net. Miami had to set their non-conference schedule just weeks before the season because they just had a hard time finding games. They couldn't find teams that were willing to play them because they knew they were going to be good. So that was always very tough. So I think we're going to need to the committee needs to figure out like how. I mean, simply put, you just need to watch these teams. You watch them play, like you could tell that Miami is a tournament worthy team, and Akron is also really good. Like they have a lot of good teams. You even go further. The MAC has as many wins against the Big 12 as the SEC does this year. You had a few interesting results there, like Eastern Michigan took down Cincinnati, Bowling Green beat Kansas State. Like that just goes to show you, like those teams are not even at the top of the MAC, and they took down Big 12 teams on the road because, of course, they're not going to. We don't get to see
Right.
these teams
Yeah.
play in MAC stadiums. They're not bold enough to do that. Um, but yeah, like that just goes to show you, like this conference has some pretty good depth. Like obviously, like you said, you get down to like maybe the bottom four teams, it gets kind of rough, but otherwise, like you're getting tested against any of these teams in the top half.
Absolutely. And UMass Toledo played a great game tonight. Like this league is it's I would argue it's probably deeper than it's ever been right now. With a night in, night out, it's going to be a tough test. And I'm disappointed that this game tonight wasn't on linear TV, let's say, or ESPNU or whatever, because Kent State, Miami, Ohio, like I said, this was a great basketball game. Goes into overtime, fantastic, fantastic game, fantastic environment. Two great coaches, two great teams. It was great basketball from the tip until the buzzer sounded. It's a game that I hope the committee and the people that need to watched, because let's say Miami, Ohio is 28 to 30 wins in the MAC title game, loses the title game to Kent State or Akron, who also has 25 wins. I think you need to put two teams into the tournament then.
Yeah, I would agree completely with that. And it's definitely going to be interesting to see like how it gets treated. Like Miami last year lost to Akron on a buzzer beater. So you could like this tournament is going to be intense once again this year. It's definitely it's what makes this Miami story even more interesting because I feel like this team has even a chip on their shoulder a little bit.
Right.
They were that close to making the tournament. Akron makes the buzzer beater, goes to the tournament instead. And not only does Miami get left out of the NCAA tournament, they got left out of the NIT as well. Kent State, who they beat 3 times, got invited instead. So so that's just how their season ended last year. So this is a very determined club.
And they're playing like it. Like you can just see every single game. They're getting everybody's best shot now in the MAC, deservedly so. But at the same time, like you can tell, like they mean business. And each game, they're coming out there and they're just handling their business and taking care of things. Like the end of this game tonight against Kent State, like you could just tell that they've been there and done that, and you could tell like they're the team because they have so much cohesion. That's when it mattered. Then at the end of this, late in the second half, and then going into overtime, I was completely confident in them because of that cohesion and everything that they have, and because they have that mentality that they're like, we're going to go take this because this is what we've worked for.
Yeah, and we've seen that multiple times. We saw that against Buffalo as well. I was actually in attendance when they played Akron. It was very similar in that game too. Akron actually led most of that game, and in the last 4 minutes, Miami took it over. Like I think this team is probably very frustrated with how last season ended, and they have been determined to turn it around this year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so this is definitely but yeah, definitely make sure you watch some MAC basketball this year. Maybe it's not always on linear TV, unfortunately, but I'll tell you what, it's a great show. Like we actually pushed our recording time back a few minutes to watch overtime of Miami Kent State because it was
It was
such a
such a
good
good
game.
game. Yeah, it was. That was great basketball.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. So we continue along with the mid-major theme here. Obviously, The MAC has some great teams, but there's some other good ones in the mid-major landscape outside of the MAC. So I could kind of give you some names here, and then you can go ahead and even throw some at me when we go through them. Utah State, currently only 2 losses on the year. The Aggies have been looking really, really good. Like this team's a wagon so far. What do you think about them?
They shoot it and they can score, and like that means something. Like obviously, I mean it's basketball. The more points you score, the better. Obviously, I mean that's not rocket science. But and they beat good teams too. I know it's like we've talked about. It's very very difficult for a lot of these mid major teams to get schedule some of these games and such. But I mean like the way that they were able to handle some of these other teams that they played. I give them a lot of credit, and I can't wait to watch them moving forward, uh, especially at the top of the Mountain West. The top of the Mountain West is very, very competitive, as it always is. And with like the likes of Utah State and San Diego State, obviously Grand Canyon has been a great addition to that league as well. And I'm just excited to watch that league unfold this year. I'm sure it'll be another multi-bid league again. Is it going to be four like it has been in the past? Probably not. But you're going to get two, possibly three teams out of Mountain West that are going to be very, very good teams entering the tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. And San Diego State is a team that's gotten really hot. You've also got New Mexico in there. New Mexico is
Right,
always
exactly.
good. Once again, looks very strong. They're right there in the picture as well. So definitely like a very strong top three. And then you got the rest of the conference with some good depth, like playing at Grand Canyon, never going to be an easy game. I know Boise State's a little bit down this year, but playing on the road against them is going to be tough. You continue along down the line, like even like Fresno State's improved this year. It's definitely the Mountain West is always one of my favorite leagues to watch because it's just such fun basketball.
It is. And there's great coaches in the league, too.
Absolutely. Like you've got your longtime guys, like you got Dutcher at San Diego State. You brought that team to a national title game just a few years ago, so that's still very awesome story there. Utah State was very impressive because, for years they kept having great year at large bid, the NCAA tournament. Coach goes somewhere else. They had that happen like what 3, 4 years in a row, and now they finally have landed on Calhoun for a couple years.
Great for them, too. I mean, because you look at that, just how they were able to keep that going just speaks volumes to what that program has been built on. And just the amazing, like, that's so difficult to do. To continuously lose your head coach, to have them go to quality programs year in year out it's just such a testament to what that program's built.
Absolutely, and it's been a strong basketball program for such a long time too. Which, by the way, make sure you at least catch one home game there a year because
Yes,
that is one of the most rowdy environments in college basketball. That place is awesome.
it is. It's an awesome place.
We could stay on the West Coast here. Kind of, yeah, I think we kind of touched on this a little bit, but we can kind of dive into these teams a little bit more in depth. In the West Coast Conference, you have St. Mary's. St. Mary's is so good, steady, and consistent now that like you almost don't want to call them a mid major, but then you look at the resources they have, like, no, this is a mid major, but they are just that good all the time. What do you think about the Gales this year?
Elite coaching staff, as always. Just what they've built is, especially like you said, with the resources they have, is kudos to them. They've always had that infusion of like Aussies or other foreign guys that I think really helps because they're able to get some under the radar guys that some of these other programs might not look at. I think one of the things that really has helped them in particular is they can get some more high quality high school recruits now because those kids aren't necessarily going to the Pac 12 schools that were there now that are in the Big 10 or Big 12. So they're able to get some higher quality high school kids from that local area. This really helped propel them as well. As you see, they have a handful of guys this year who are contributing that are from that general area. So I think that's really been a cool thing to see that they've taken advantage of that. But they always have that Aussie or foreign influence. They always have a big guy or two who can stretch and do things. They always have a quality guard, and you see that this year. I mean, that's it's just they just plug in a new guy every couple of years because they have a guy who's been there for 3 or 4 years and just does things that they've been taught to do correctly by that staff. It's just a tremendous program that's been built there, and I'm a fan of that program. I hope that they are able to continue to have that success just because they've built it the right way.
Absolutely. It is so cool. And the funny thing is, I don't think until this past year that I realized like how cool their campus looks too.
Yep.
I feel like for some reason like they just jumped like from surprising mid-major to mid-major that's always good so quickly that like you never had that moment where people started to look up their campuses like like the Florida Gulf Coast run many years back. Like everyone found out about their campus during the run and stuff. I feel like that moment never happened for St. Mary's. And then finally last year, there were so few other storylines in the tournament that all of a sudden people started noticing their campus. And I was like, this place is incredible. I mean, no wonder why they're getting these guys from overseas and now local guys to come in. Um, it's very, very cool. I think it'll be very interesting to see this team this year, just because like I think they actually score a little bit better than we've seen some recent St. Mary's teams.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, you always know night in, night out they're going to defend at an elite level, but they're putting up more points this year too. They usually play kind of like a slow, methodical type pace. They've always had shooters, they've always had elite guards that could do things, but they have usually played slower, and they're playing a little bit more up tempo this year, which has been exciting to watch.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, get right, circle your calendar for when they play Gonzaga because that is going to be a showdown for
Yes.
sure.
Yeah.
We moved to Santa Clara. Um, I think this team made some early statements in the year, kind of picked up several quality wins. Obviously one of the headliners was just running Xavier off their home court in Cintas. Um, and really they outside of a pretty rough like 3 game stretch, I think to start December, this team has looked really, really good. They got a huge statement victory over the aforementioned St. Mary's over the weekend. How about the Broncos?
I think the thing that's really helped them is they've produced multiple NBA draft picks very recently. I mean, obviously Jalen Williams. You look at the kid who's at Golden State now. Like they've got other guys that have went to the league, and that's really helped kind of show other young men like, hey, you can come to this program, um, and Coach Sendek and company are going to help get you to that next level. And they've really put things together at a high level there, where they've kind of been able to become that next that maybe, like you said, they just beat St. Mary's and played tremendous. So maybe they are at that level this year, but they've kind of been like maybe that third team recently. Whereas maybe this year they could take a step up and they could. We know that Gonzaga and St. Mary's are going to get into the tournament, but Santa Clara is certainly a team that could be that third team that gets in this year, with the pieces that they have and everything that they've put together there.
Yeah, that St. Mary's win was huge. Like that got them
Yep.
right in the thick of the conversation. I've noticed
Yep.
a few bracketologists having them in there, and I was very excited for that. Let's get the 3 bid WCC going. Um, we go to Seattle as well. We kind of mentioned them a little bit earlier. Another team that's really stepped it up this year in the WCC. Kind of a little bit of a rough stretch lately, but this team has been playing really, really well for the most part.
Well, the WCC didn't do them any favors by welcome to the league. You have to play all the upper echelon teams at the very beginning. But hey, you got to play. You got to play them at some point, I guess. But I've been very impressed by them and the jump that they've made because, like, obviously, the jump from the WAC to the WCC is significant. And they had Gonzaga beat at Gonzaga. I watched that game. Seattle used guard play is really good. Like that was another really good game that I'm
That
sure
was
most
such a
country
heartbreaker.
missed. It was. They had that. I know me and my wife were sitting on the couch and we're like, dang it, man, they had that. They just slipped away and it went to overtime and they didn't really have a chance then. It just kind of slipped away. But they're it's going to take a little time, obviously, to get to the level consistently to compete with the likes of St. Mary's and Santa Clara and San Francisco and such. But like we said, that to come into the league this quickly and fare the way that they are, I give them a lot.
Absolutely, and some impressive non-conference performances too. Like when
Yeah,
one at Stanford, a team that everyone pretty much just pegged for the NCAA tournament at this point. North Carolina couldn't even win at Stanford. One at Washington as well. Washington probably not a top Big Ten team, but at least a competitive one. So, like, you had some pretty nice headlining performances there, too, from Seattle. I mean, man, if they had just gotten that Gonzaga one, we could be talking about the
man,
four bid WCC.
right? Because that would have propelled them into some of these other games that they've played recently where they've lost. But at the same time, it's like they're a team that can get to the NIT and make some noise potentially. Just exciting to see the potential that that program has moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Who knows? Maybe we'll see. Maybe if they can right the ship down the stretch, maybe the gauntlet that is the WCC bracket can give them a more favorable draw.
A gauntlet is right.
It really is. Like it's so spectacular. It's one of my favorite brackets. I
Yeah,
know, when you look at the picture of it, it's not the most aesthetically pleasing, but it is a great bracket when you want to reward your top teams for a great regular season.
the only issue is Gonzaga always has like a week off.
I know they do, and that's the thing, though. Like, I mean, it's very weird because it actually doesn't really benefit the West Coast Conference that much because usually Gonzaga and St. Mary's get the buys all the way to the end, and
Right,
usually they're already in the tournament. So, like, that's actually a case where you're kind of hoping for a spoiler, but
right,
usually
right.
they
And they've
they
had
don't
it a
make it
couple times.
through. Yeah, I mean, every once in a while you get like it's so kind of funny because every once in a while you get a team that kind of runs through part of the gauntlet. They can't make it all the way through, but it's very entertaining. Like I think Pepperdine last year kind of
Yes,
went on
yeah,
like
yep,
they ran through a few games.
yep.
Um, I remember I actually had a funny exchange with their official account because I was like, "Okay, guys, you're looking great so far. How about you bring that old logo back?" And they were like, "We tried." And I was like, "What's the story here?" And
What is the
then
story?
the person's like, "No, please. The admin likes the comfort of a full time job." So we'll never know what the background is on that. But they're very entertaining team and account. We can go to some more of the mid majors here. Liberty looking very strong again. Conference USA is a deep conference, but Liberty's kind of rising above that so far.
Yeah, they kind of have set themselves apart from everybody else in the league. And like you said, it's a very competitive league. Game in, game out, you don't know who's going to win. I mean, teams are winning on the road too, so it's like you just don't know how it's going to fare pan out. But thus far, Liberty has kind of set themselves apart from the rest of the pack. They're going to be a team like they got to win the tournament, got to win CUSA tournament to get into the NCAA tournament. But they're a team like you're not going to want to see them as say a 13, 14 seed.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, Liberty plays that like slow, frustrating pace that a lot of the high majors do not want to see. Like that is not a fun matchup to get. Obviously last year they made the tournament. Unfortunately, they had to play Oregon, who they're as a program are very much cursed against. But, usually they are a team that you don't want to see them pop up on Selection Sunday, that's for sure. And really,
Right,
like they have an impressive win. They won at Dayton this year. Like that's actually a really good win.
right. The top of the A10 is legit as always. especially to go to UD Arena. It's an unbelievable place to play.
Hmm.
I've seen a game there before. It's a fantastic environment. Like to get a win there, that speaks to being a talented team.
Absolutely. That place is incredible. I was fortunate enough to go 3 years in a row there, because, we knew someone on VCU. So we were able to that's how we got tickets. Like it was so cool. That place is one of my favorites. I'm kind of sad I'm not going to get to go this year. One of my favorite places to catch a game. Dayton's kind of gone under the radar too, if I feel like,
Yep,
because
yep,
they're just so unlucky. Like that's one of the few teams that got a lot of power for opponents. One at Marquette, beat Florida State, got all these headlining wins. Like they were even in a tournament with a bunch of them too. I think in the preseason NIT, and just all of those teams they beat have all fallen flat in their face. Um, and then they came close to being BYU. Like that could have been the huge difference maker. Like we'd be having an entirely different conversation about Dayton had they held on against BYU. But a very good team there. St. Louis, George Mason. How about those two? They are looking really good.
they are. That man, like the top of that league, it's always good. But like I feel like this year, especially, I mean, you look at like just man, like they're every night, like those that top group of teams is just taking care of business, and they're playing competitive games, obviously, because that league is so deep. But it's like they just keep winning and they keep winning, and like St. Louis is ranked now, and George Mason should be ranked. And you look at Dayton and what they've done year in year out. VCU, they're going to be there at the end as well, and I feel like I'm leaving somebody else out too. Like this, the top of that league is just so impressive, and like St. Louis obviously has the continuity with the head coach Robbie Avila and some of those other guys that have played together and been together through the Indiana State days as well. So it's like there's great cohesion between them. It's going to be really really fun to watch that league in particular moving forward.
Absolutely, yeah. It's very cool about St. Louis because yeah, those guys have followed him for so long. Last year kind of dealt with some injuries, so they really only had three guys that could contribute. Now, you filled out the depth a little bit, and this team is looking really good. George Mason, I officially fired up the Rank George Mason movement yesterday, so they're looking really good. And really, I love seeing you hit a good point there. They're taking care of business too because I feel like so many years we have that night where everything just falls apart, all the top teams get upset, and then here comes the zero bid A10 movement. Um, so you just deal with all of that
Right.
going on, and I'm very glad to see them take care of business so far. It's very good to see. But long seasons left. You got someone like Loyola Chicago hanging out there. They're in the Q4 range, but they're probably a lot tougher than that. Still some
They're going to
dangerous
get
games
somebody.
left. They are. They are absolutely. I've been watching it every single time. I'm like, they're going to get someone they shouldn't, and they're the cost of A10 a bid at some point.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, so far, Dayton survived the other night. George Mason survives. We'll see where it goes from there.
St. Louis won tonight.
St. Louis beat Duquesne tonight. That was that
Yep.
was a good one
Duquesne. Yeah.
too. Keep
Yep.
keep it up, St. Louis. Remain ranked, and let's get two ranked A10 teams next week. We go to Murray State. We can kind of touch them here. I know you'll obviously dive into the Valley here in a little bit, but how about the Racers?
They are playing at a very, very high level right now. Like they're due to lose at some point, but man, like I don't know who's going to do it with how well they've been playing. I mean, like they killed Bradley. They've just they're taking care of business and doing what they're supposed to be doing against everybody. And like I think everybody kind of knew coming in, like man, like they could be good. They were one of the top picks in the league. But it's like everything they've put together, man. They got power conference transfers that have really, really played well for them. They're going to be a really, really tough out in Arch Madness. But also, if they make the NCAA tournament, nobody's going to want to play them.
Absolutely. Like Murray State is another one of those names where if you see it pop up next to you on Selection Sunday, you're not looking forward to it. Like the Racers have this. I mean, obviously, new coach this year, but the program has been there before so many
Right.
times. They have not only been there, they've won games and they made the tournament. So you gotta look out for them to do it again. Very impressive squad. Like I think the eye-opening one for me was when they played Akron and just from start to finish just walloped on the Zips.
Yep. Yep. Took care of business entirely. Like that wasn't even a game.
Yeah. And that was one of those where I was like, oh, this is going to be a big game. And then
Hmm.
Murray State was like, all right, hey, we're pulled away.
And they did quickly.
Yeah. We go to the Southland. The Southland is a couple of really interesting teams. McNeese was pretty much the entire story of the NCAA tournament last year. We it was a tournament that sadly lacked a lot much for upsets, but McNeese beat Clemson pretty handily. Um, they were very impressive. Obviously, coach gone, but they still assembled a really really good squad this year. And then Stephen F. Austin, our team's been really tough. I feel like it's going to be really these two going neck and neck.
I remember, I don't remember who it was, but I know I saw one of the major bracketology guys put both SFA and McNeese in the tournament. That was before McNeese lost to UTRGV. But at the same time, it's like, man, that was really cool because both those teams are playing at a really, really high level. I've noticed recently, I've been watching a lot of Southland basketball. A couple of years ago, I was at LSU for a football game, but they played Nichols the night before, so I went to the game, and Nichols beat them. And ever since then, I've kind of followed Nichols because I like Coach Sadler. He's super young. I was a really young head coach as well, so I can kind of relate to what he's going through a little bit. And I've just kind of followed his program, and it led to me watching the Southland more and more. And like that league is actually really good from a mid-major
Yeah,
standpoint. It's super, super competitive. But even the teams at the bottom, like, are not bad teams. And like Craig Doty's the head coach at Houston Christian, and I know him personally because he was a JUCO coach here in Illinois. And he's a really, really good coach. He did a great job at Emporia State in the Division 2, and I'm really happy to see him having that job. I know they're struggling a little bit this year, but it's like they're going to beat somebody. New Orleans is significantly better this year. I believe they won at TCU this year and Tulane, I
yeah,
think. Like it's just UTRGV is like solid. They beat McNeese, and they like just this league as a whole is crazy competitive, and night in night out, like you're gonna get a battle from anybody.
yeah. It's really an impressive story to be honest, because like just a few years ago, like it felt like they had fallen to the point where their teams were pretty much just getting the 16 on the 16 line, whoever won the
Right.
conference. And now, like you saw, they even had to try to survive a little bit. Like the WAC had been kind of invading them a little bit, and then they decided just to dive all in on regionality, focus on all the local programs around, in the those areas of Texas and Louisiana, and they embraced that and really just evolved the league at that point. McNeese started investing heavily in basketball, and that really helped. Like, it's really impressive. They really raised the profile of their conference very quickly in just a few years.
Absolutely. And it shows like other conferences can do that too. Like it's not stopping like the NEC that I've been following pretty closely this year. Like what's stopping them from doing that type of thing as well? Or you can name other conferences obviously, but it's like the regionality aspect that the Southland has bought into with Texas and Louisiana, I think just makes it's awesome. It's just really cool
Yeah,
because that's not the case in college athletics anymore. So when you have this league like the Southland that has teams like that, and there's other teams moving forward that they can add from say potentially the WAC or what is UT Arlington going to do? Like you're always hearing them rumored. I mean, I know they're in the WAC, but you always hear rumors of them. Like I've even heard rumors of them in the Missouri Valley and like other things. Like Uh, what about if you wanted to spread your footprint a little bit into like say Central Arkansas or there's so many things that they could do that that they they have a really good thing going. I just hope that they can keep it that way.
Absolutely, yeah. And like I found myself ever since they did that, I found myself very drawn to catching Southland, well, Southland sports in general, but obviously like Southland basketball. I've been much more drawn to it ever since they really just went it all in this regionality. Like I think it's fun for college sports when you have all these teams that are close together playing each other. Like every game is intense because of that.
And I think the thing that's really helped them is they play a lot of their conference games Saturday and Monday. Like maybe not as many people are watching their games on Saturday because you got so many other games, but on Monday there's not as many games, so you're able to watch that league and really focus in on it. And I hope fans are doing that, that they're watching those games because these games there's legitimate players. Like you look at the rosters of these teams, these guys are transfers from legitimate programs. Like you're in a really good area for recruiting when it comes to New Orleans, with the Louisiana schools, and obviously the Texas schools. You have Dallas, Houston. You go down the line of all the major cities in Texas that you can get some of these guys from. So I think it's really helped a lot of those programs, and obviously the success McNeese has had recently has really helped. I mean, obviously they've put into making their program better financially, and it shows.
Yeah, absolutely. Southland Mondays are a must on your calendar at some
Yes,
point because
yes.
it is so great. And Stephen of Austin, like they're a great story too because their program was on a really high level for a while there, right around the COVID time. Really, they made the tournament once, were like a shot away from the Sweet 16, made it again, and then the season that got canceled, or the tournament got canceled because of COVID. Oh, they rolled into Cameron Indoor Stadium and beat Duke that year. Um, and like that team was slated to make the tournament before it got canceled. And really, they never really found their way back up after that until this year. And it's really back to what we saw from those teams back then. Like they're a team that defends really hard. Just a really exciting squad to watch.
Brad Underwood was the coach there, and it shows. I mean, what we know what he's done at Illinois and how he is, especially me living here. But even back to like the mid 2000s and early 2010s, like one of my high school teammates played at SFA under Danny Casper. I can give you some stories about him, but we'll leave those for off the air because I'm sure some people have heard some of those stories. But he had solid teams too that defended at an elite level. Um, that's just kind of been the name of their program. Like they defend and that's what they do. When they're good, that's their calling card, and they're doing it again this year.
Yeah, absolutely. We go to another one of our favorite conferences to watch. I know we talked about this one off air, but the Big West. The Big West has been very exciting this year once again. Like last year, probably should have been a two-bid conference. UC Irvine
Yeah.
got robbed a little bit, but UC San Diego was so close to a first round win last year. They're once again in the mix, but Hawaii, they're a fantastic story as well. That team's been a ton of fun to watch.
So I worked second shift for a few years, and being a basketball guy, I would get home and Hawaii would be the only game on TV. So I got to watching them, and for the past couple of years, I've watched every single one of their games. I love the sets that Iran Ganat runs, their head coach. I think he's a tremendous coach. I know last year they underachieved, but they had some issues, underlying issues and such. But you watch their team this year, they are so entertaining to watch. They are elite defensively. They're top 20 in basically every defensive category. They are they defend at such a high level and it's fun. But this year they're scoring too. Like they're playing more up tempo, which is not Iran Ganat's style, but because of the players that they have this year, they're able to do that. And it's a really fun team to watch. Like Dre Bullock, their stud wing, like that kid is one of the better athletes I've seen. Like he is a high flyer, but he's also like super talented too. Like some of the plays he can make defensively. he's blocking shots, but he's getting his hands in passing lanes, getting a lot of steals. Like Aaron Hunkin-Clater, their point guard, is super super talented. One of those like great assist to turnover ratio guys, and he's from Hawaii, so that's really cool too. They just got some really fun pieces. They're older, like I think their average age is 24. I want to say like uh, Isaac Big Fish Johnson, their center's married. Like, and I think Hunter Erickson is too as well. Like, these are older guys,
Yeah.
and you can tell by the way they play too. Like, they kind of have a little bit of that YMCA rec league type of game, but it's like obviously at a higher level, of course, because these are like legitimate Division One athletes. Um, but they're a team, trust me, that you do not want to see. If they make the tournament, you don't want to see them because of the how high of a level they defend at, and they're shooting the three much better this year. So they're a team that could get somebody come the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, you got some tournament experience there in the Big Fish. He played well last year and had a huge game against TCU the year before when they beat them at when he was at Utah State. So
Yep, yep,
obviously, like that. I mean, to use the pun here, he was a big fish to catch for Hawaii. That was definitely a huge
absolutely,
pickup.
literally.
Um, yeah, incredible player. Definitely a fun team and one of my favorites to watch. And yeah, UC San Diego is looking good as well. And like you can't count like UC Irvine or UC Santa Barbara as well. Like this league
Right.
is once again just with so many good teams. And I mean, you can even go further. Like Cal State Northridge is by far the most inconsistent team that exists right now. Like they can
Yes.
get anyone on a given night, but you also don't know if they're going to get caught on the given night.
Right. Right. Like they could beat any of the upper echelon teams, but they also could lose to uh, Riverside, Bakersfield. Like it just you don't know what you're gonna get.
Absolutely, yeah. I think they just lost to Long Beach State over the weekend,
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
which it is sad to not see strong basketball in the pyramid this year, but I'm sure they'll get back going soon.
Hopefully.
Yeah, that is one of my favorite like random looking venues in college
Yes.
basketball. Like, oh, the
It is.
pyramid.
You're right. Random, like in Long Beach, California.
Oh, it's spectacular. Um, we go back east a little bit. UNC Wilmington, kind of like very quietly 17-2 right now. The Seahawks, made a tournament last year. They were competitive against a really good Texas Tech team. They're looking at a return trip here.
And they absolutely can, and I think they will. The top of that league, though, has gotten significantly better, and that's huge for that league. And it's unfortunate that the CAA makes it difficult to watch a lot of their games. But I have been able to see all of them, and actually I've seen all 364 teams this season. It's because I have a knee injury, so I've been able to watch a little bit more. I'm waiting for a surgery and such. Been able to watch some more games this year than usual, but UNC Wilmington is the past couple of years. You can just kind of see them growing and growing and growing, and this might be the year where they're able to splash and beat a team in the tournament. I could definitely see it happen.
Yeah, and that's a program that could be very interesting to see, like how they can go in the future too. Obviously with this whole like rev share era, unlike other teams in the CAA, they are, basketball is really their main focus. Obviously you got some football programs in that conference, so you have UNC Wilmington, like they're able to just really send like a lot of that funding towards trying to get guys for basketball. I mean, I think you even saw it this past year with the guys they managed to both retain and add to the roster.
Right, they're just a really really interesting team to watch moving forward. And like I said, I know not everybody can see them, but if you have an opportunity to, you really should. And they have a really cool home environment too. Really cool place to that. I've never been there, but like when you watch it on TV and such, it looks like a really cool place.
Yeah, absolutely. It is really cool. And like you every once in a while you get a chance to catch these teams.
Yeah,
They put CAA basketball every once in a while on, um, they put them on CBS Sports Network, and that
yes,
is the
yes,
time to catch them. Because yeah, it's really cool. Like we had a treat. I think that was yesterday,
yeah.
where
It was
they
multiple games.
yeah, and it was a blast to watch. Like that was really cool. You're gonna get your chances to see UNC Wilmington coming up. You've got a couple Thursdays in a row coming up late January into February where you're gonna get to see them play. You have a game at Towson. Talking about that cool home environment. Circle your calendar. Tuesday or Thursday, February 5th. UNC Wilmington hosts William and Mary. William and Mary is a very fun team to watch as well.
Yes,
Check
the
that
night
game
before
out.
the night before my surgery, so I'll be able to lock in.
But yeah, yeah, I love when they do that. Like it's nice to kind of get that CAA basketball outside of the trappings of flow sports.
Yes,
Um,
yes. Which we don't need to get
now,
started on
oh yeah, yeah. We're sticking to mostly positive things tonight. Yeah, so like one of the more all over the place teams in college basketball, the Troy Trojans. This team played in so many wild games to start the year. Like I think they went on the road like 9 of their first 10 games, and they had like at least like 4 or 5 overtime games. Um, that included winning at Kent State. That included beating San Diego State. That included overtime against USC. Like this team has taken on a
that. They should
tough
have won that
schedule to
game.
start the year. They should have won that game. Oh my gosh. I was in Colorado and we were being like a couple friends who were like watching the game, and then Troy was up like huge in whatever the last overtime was. Um, but we had to go to the bus station to get the rest of our friends who arrived from the airport. And we come back and see USC won, and I was just like, "What? How did that happen?"
In the craziest
Oh,
way possible. Oh,
heartbreak. Because if they had won that one, we'd be talking a lot more about them, even at the at large. But still a very good team. The Sun Belt doesn't really have a lot of teams that are separating themselves either. So I feel like Troy is definitely the biggest favorite to come out of the conference. There'll be a lot of fun if they do.
another conference tournament bracket to look up, folks, if you're interested. Gauntlet, let's just say, for that league as well. But you're right. I mean, they because of all those difficult games that they've been in overtime and such, that's really going to prepare them for March and what's moving forward for them. I think they're the clear favorite in the Sun Belt, especially right now. I mean, it's a competitive league, so anything can happen when leagues are so tight like that. But they got to be the favorite. And like I said, because they've been battle tested, I really like that for them. But again, the Sun Belt Conference tournament, anything can happen. And the way that that tournament is set up, again, go Google it, go look it up. But you see crazy things happen in that tournament every year.
Yeah. Yeah, I think last year was when they moved to the Gauntlet. So yeah, that'll
It's
be a
crazy.
lot of fun. I love it. Like again, like it's very smart. Like you set your best
It is,
teams up for
yes.
success. But it looks so funny.
But it's like you literally have a week off.
Yeah. Yeah, like and obviously, for a team that's that battle tested, I think it's good to get a week off. Kind of nice to get a break. It will be very interesting.
Absolutely.
Another low key team that probably they got to win their conference for sure to make it in. And actually kind of saw them lose tonight, so this isn't the best timing. But the UT Barnes Skyhawks, they made a lot of headlines early on. This the Euro 7, very fun team.
I've seen them. They played at Bradley. Really talented group. Impressive to watch. Just the chemistry that they have, being that group of foreign guys. Like they just play. They just know how each other's going to play. They kind of play that way. I think that the OVC is another league where it's like you just don't know what's going to happen night in, night out. So the fact that they lose at SEMO tonight is kind of you just kind of those type of things happen in the OVC. And the same type of things happen when it comes to the OVC tournament too. Like anything can happen. You've seen teams that are the 8th seed in that league make a run to the championship game um, frequently too. Like deep runs in that conference tournament. So I mean, anything can happen. But UT Martin, with the cohesion that they have between those guys, like they won at UNLV, they won at Bradley, they had Florida State on the ropes at one point. This is a team that's been battle tested again, and a team just to keep your eye on moving forward. If they're probably going to be a 15, 16 seed. Well, I mean, whoever wins the OVC will be. But if it's UT Martin, the 1 or 2 seed that's playing them is going to be in for a battle.
Yeah, 100%. And it will be very awesome when they get it done because UT Martin is part of the Never Made the Tournament Club.
Yes, that's
So
right.
I always love seeing a team get to dance for the first time. So
That's
definitely will be
right.
rooting for the Skyhawks to do that. Um, we can move to our next segment here. We'll kind of go into our local teams a little bit. The MVC for you, obviously, you mentioned you're over by Bradley. So obviously you've been watching you've watched everyone closely, but obviously your local teams even more closely. What are your thoughts on the MVC as a whole? Obviously, we covered Murray State earlier in the show, so you don't have to do as much there, but everyone else, I guess.
Super, super competitive. I mean, I think ISU was the heavy favorite. I live right in the middle of ISU and Bradley. I live in Eureka, which is literally in the middle of Peoria and Bloomington Normal. So I can go 30 minutes in either direction. I'll end up in either place. I tend to go to Peoria more because Peoria reminds me of my hometown in Flint, Michigan. And I know the coaching staff at Bradley, so I tend to go that route more. At the same time, like I really, really enjoy watching Brian Wardle and what he's done there. He's a tremendous man. He's a tremendous leader, but he's built a tremendous program too. He just became the second winningest coach in program history there. Um, and, and their team this year is younger than what he's had in the past. I mean, obviously they lost Duke Dean and a tremendous group of seniors last year that made a really fun run in the NIT. I was at the game against Chattanooga. That atmosphere was such a high level. I brought my 2 oldest kids and my wife came as well, and we sat uh, behind Chattanooga's bench actually to see the game. It was high level basketball. That was a lot of fun. But those are some really really talented players that Bradley lost, and they've implemented some transfers, some key transfers. But Jaquan Johnson in his second year in the program, he's such a fun player to watch. He's one of the top steal men in the country. Just and he's small. They always have small guards. They just always have those guys. They always have under Brian Wardle. They'll continue to do that. Montana Wheeler's a freshman. He's the next one up when it comes to the small guards. So they got a freshman and sophomore small 5'9" ish guard that just guard at a really really high level. And they can score pretty dang well too. They're fun to watch. I mean, you look at this league. UIC has kind of come on recently, playing pretty dang good basketball, beating some of the upper echelon teams in the league. ISU just throttled Brad. They kind of had wounded animal syndrome, I like to call it. Their backs were kind of against the wall, and they had to win that game. Plus, it's a huge rivalry. ISU's about to go through the top of the conference, a gauntlet for them there. So I mean, you look at it like Northern Iowa's been solid this year. Drake's a little bit down, but they've lost a stretch of really, really good coaches and players. I think it's bound to happen. The MVC is a league that any night anybody can beat anybody. Bradley needed overtime to beat one win Evansville team. Evansville's like 1-7, I believe, in the league, 1-8 or whatever it is. Bradley needed overtime to beat them. So it's a league any given night anybody can beat it.
Yeah, absolutely. And like Belmont has been in a ton of crazy games
Yes,
lately.
yes,
They've been
yes.
looking really good, and
They
they
can shoot it.
lost absolutely. Like they surprisingly lost at home, and then immediately followed it up by winning on the road in Northern Iowa, and then Had another crazy comeback win recently. They've been very all over the place. So it's definitely just such a fun competitive league. Obviously, Arch Madness is one of your best tournaments you're going to see every year.
I got to get to that one of these years. St. Louis isn't far from me. I need to. It's on my bucket list.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be such a cool tournament to be at. Hopefully you're there soon. Because yeah, it would be really cool.
Absolutely.
But yeah, and down by my neck of the woods, the Horizon League has been this. This is always a conference that doesn't get enough appreciation. I mean, you look at the past, just recently you had Oakland's really fun NCAA tournament run with Jack Golke, just shooting lights out from deep, having a crazy game against Kentucky, and this league has had many other teams pull upsets as well. Obviously you can even go back like Wisconsin, Milwaukee, made a Sweet 16 run under Bruce Pearl. Um, Butler, everyone thinks about them in the Big East. They were a Horizon League team when they made the national title back to back years. So like this conference always has a great legacy of that. And this year, I feel like it's a very good conference at the top. There's a lot of depth too. Wright State right now is the hot team. They've won, I believe it's 7 in a row now. The Raiders have been really on the roll. I'm gonna definitely have to check them out. I'm definitely gonna make it to a game there. I'm not sure when yet, but I'm definitely planning to go. Uh, Always a good program, but this year especially they seem to be really really good. Played a very tough non-conference schedule. Couldn't come out with some of those games, but they came very close, including notably nearly winning at Cal, which I mean North Carolina can take the same credit there. They came as close as them, at least. But, you have Robert Morris, who was very competitive in the tournament last year against Alabama. They're still really solid. You know, you have I Purdue Fort Wayne took down Notre Dame. And they're right there sitting in the middle. Doug Gottlieb experiment actually does seem to have some wheels at Green Bay this year.
Right.
Man, last year, that seemed to be going so badly. And he's really turned it around this year, very quietly having a very solid year, and they're right there in the mix at the top of the conference.
This is a conference that I kind of hold near and dear to my heart because Oakland was in my final two when it came to deciding where I was going to go. I love Greg Campy. He's one of the best human beings you'll ever meet, but he's an unbelievable basketball coach. He's been there for 40 plus years.
Yeah.
I really, really, really appreciate him, and I, part of me almost wishes I would have went there. Detroit Mercy as well. That was another school I considered as well. That's always I've always appreciated that program as well. So and then I we played against Northern Kentucky when they were Division II, so I know that program pretty well too. So it's a conference that like you said, it never gets the recognition they deserve. Like Valpo was in that league and was tremendous as well. Obviously Butler. I mean, they were the cream of the crop for the longest time. You look at Loyola, UIC. I mean, there were so many really good teams in that league. That right now it's so competitive that anybody could win that league.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and Oakland, obviously, they played a very tough non-conference schedule. Like they took on all takers, and I mean they didn't come out of a win, but man, they came close a few times. They played Purdue really tough on the road. Nearly came out with that one. Nearly beat UCF. That is a team that you don't want to see in March. And obviously, NKU, they got a few good guys too. I got to experience them in person just last week. Obviously, we were very fortunate enough to be credentialed for that game when they took on Detroit Mercy. Um, Wells had an incredible game. LJ Wells going for 35 points in that one, and he put up 35 the hard way. It wasn't like he got hot from three or anything. No, he just had like a run where like he just kept taking it inside, was just more physical than Detroit was, and was able to go and get those tough points to get to 35. And they got one of the more interesting glue guys in Ethan Elliott that I've really seen. He's a young guy on the team, but actually, I noticed like during the game, like I was like, he's doing a pretty good job like helping to facilitate the offense. And actually, um, it was actually Coach Darren Horn's press conference after the game where he mentioned him, that he might have the best assist to turnover ratio in college basketball. Like most guys, if you're at a 3-1, like you're doing good. His is like around 10-1, I believe. At least it
Unreal.
was after that game. I'm not sure where it is after the Robert Morris game, but man, I mean that is an incredible assist to turnover ratio.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And I mean to be doing like I think I remember he was like a freshman. So like to be doing it that young too is really incredible. Just like he never lights up the scoreboard, but he's one of those guys that just really helps facilitate this offense. And you got a lot of guys that have really stuck with the coach for a while. So I think NKU is one of the cooler stories in the conference.
And it's another venue, folks. If you're ever wondering, like, look up that arena. It's a beautiful, beautiful venue.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, we're a Cincinnati-based podcast, guys. Get down there, go to a game. I highly recommend it. Um, it's definitely a lot of fun and easy ticket to get, well worth your time. And again, like a very good and exciting club to see this year too. So we'll kind of go towards the end here, which is, you've been doing some power rankings for the NEC for the our friends over at the NEC Blitz. Shout out to them. So, what are you seeing from the NEC so?
This is again a league that is crazy competitive. Um, they take their lumps in the non-conference. I think people realize that. But if you look at LIU and Central Connecticut State, CCSU, they have both fared very well in the non-conference slate. LIU almost beat Mississippi State. There was a couple other teams as well, but they were right there. Um, Central Connecticut State won at Boston College and uh, and Rutgers. So I mean, this
Yeah,
is a
Rutgers
team.
as well.
And Darren Smith Jr. is one of the better players in America that a lot of people don't know about from CCSU. I mean, this young man is a can get a double double every night, points or rebounds. He's 20 points almost every night. He's getting 10 boards pretty consistently. This is a young man who's a very talented player, and I believe he's only a sophomore too. Like he's probably going to be somewhere different next year, but kudos to him. I mean, you got to give him credit for that. It's just a tremendous job. And then like Lemoyne has Shiloh Johnson, who's a really, really talented big man. He's 6'9" and a really, really solid player for the Dolphins. And there's just other teams in this league as well. Like Chicago State beat Bowling Green, I believe it was. And like there's some other teams in this league where you don't. I mean, New Haven is brand new for Division Two, and they're on a 3 game winning streak in conference play right now. Like this is a night in, night out. You don't know what you're going to get. Like LIU has kind of set themselves apart, I believe, from my personal opinion, watching a lot of the games, that they've kind of set themselves apart from the perspective of like they have some really, really, really good guards, and that means a lot in March. But the thing is they're not deep. They don't sub a lot, so those guys are playing a lot of minutes. They are, but they're talented, man. Like they got 3 or 4 guys that can get 20 on a nightly basis. I pray none of those guys get hurt because they're a talented group. If you see either one of those teams, CCSU or LIU, as a 16 seed, you're going to be in for a battle. You will be tested by one of those two, um, because they got some guys who can play on those teams. They really do.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we can avoid having more days like Saturday, obviously both of them got upset on Saturday. If we avoid
But
having
that just speaks to the competitiveness of the league.
absolutely. But like I feel like those teams are even like a threat to potentially even hit the 15 line, which is a pretty good accomplishment for this conference. We'll have
Absolutely.
to wait and see. Obviously, we don't know how much work the committee actually does there. Obviously, you have last year's example where Norfolk State was very clearly like probably closer to the 14 line than the 16 line, but somehow got slated as a 16 against the best team in the country. Um, obviously we don't know what to expect from them. It's entirely possible that you just see NEC champ and slot them at 16 in the play-in game. Those two teams, if you've seen them play, like it feels like they've earned potentially a higher seed than that as long as they can remain consistent.
I agree. I mean, those two in particular, like they've set themselves apart in the league, and like I said, they played very, very well in a non-conference slate against some very talented teams. So they're teams, like I said, they're teams that you're not going to want to see. Um, if you're one of those upper echelon teams getting the 1, 2 seed, you're going to be in for a battle.
Yeah, 100%. And like it'll be interesting to kind of see what CCSU does in particular because they were so good last year. Mostly steamrolled through conference play, and then the conference tournament got them. So it'll be
Yep.
very interesting to see if they can kind of flip the script this year.
Yep. At home too, which was unfortunate.
Yeah, that was so tough for those guys. That team, because yeah, last year that team, I mean, this year's team actually probably picked up more headline wins, but man, last year's team was special too.
Yes. Yep. I think last year's team could have made an argument to. I'm not saying they would have got the upset in the first round, but like they really would have tested somebody. Like it would have been a real battle.
Absolutely, absolutely. That team was a lot of fun. Well, I think that is the show. Definitely was an absolute blast talking college basketball. There's so many teams, so many storylines. I mean, we could go all night with this, and have a blast doing it. But thank you, Bobby, for joining the show tonight. It was fantastic having you on here. Your former player and coach mindset is something that I think really is a really good analysis of the game. So where can the people find you?
Absolutely, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. I hope the passion that I have for the game and the sport is evident. Hoping maybe in the future, if it's in the cards, if God wants me to do it, I would love to coach again. We'll see. We'll see what He has in store for me. You can always follow me on Twitter X. Personally, on my personal account at Coach underscore B Will. I post a lot more basketball type stuff on there, and then of course my podcast at the TNT College Football Podcast, TNT College Foot One on social media there. Obviously, I do a ton of work when it comes to college football, with a focus on Connecticut, but at the same time doing a national perspective and everything. I try to come away from discussions from more of a coaching side of things, interviewing coaches and players, and we're doing that a lot more with the off season now. I tend not to do that during the season because I've been there as a player and coach. I don't want to bombard them and bother them because I know what they're going through from that perspective. But during the off season, I'm going to do a lot of that. It'll be a lot of fun. Feel free to follow. That's the off season, so I got to start getting ready to break down teams again. I break down every team at the FBS level. It's an undertaking, but it is a lot of fun to do.
Yeah, it is really awesome. Always enjoy seeing those previews and just the in-depth, really the depth of breakdown that you're able to do each year. It's definitely a lot of work, but definitely just so great to see.
It's a lot of fun. It really is. It's a lot of work, but it's a it's a labor of love. Like I really love doing it. I really do.
Yeah, and I mean, like I know, like very similarly, like obviously we do a preview of most of the teams in college football. Maybe we don't do them for some of the more well known ones, just because usually those are pretty well covered. But Um,
Right.
it's a lot of work, but man, like it's just so worth it when you get to see the excitement of the fan bases for a new year,
Yeah.
and all the buzz around that. It's so great.
Exactly. And I travel. I've in the past I've traveled a lot. I didn't do as much this year due to some different circumstances at home and family members, sickness and some death in the family and such. There was I travel to games and such, so that's obviously a ton of fun getting to do that, getting to be in different environments and being around fans and such. It's a blessing to be able to do it. I mean, I get to vote on almost every award. It's just I'm truly blessed and honored to be able to do what I get to do here.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's always a joy to see, what you're doing, the content you're putting out, and just all doing it with a God first perspective too. It's really cool.
That's the number one thing with the platform that I do have. I want that's the number one thing. That's what we're here to do. We're create disciples, and that's my job as a Christian man, as a Christian in general, is just to pour into people and just help people in any way I can. Try to raise up a generation of believers who put God first in everything we do.
Absolutely. Amen to that. Um, well, thank you again for tuning in. Obviously, make sure you follow Bobby at the TNT podcast and his coach Bobby Wilson account as well. And of course, if you're not already subscribed to us, be sure to like and subscribe our channel. We'll continue to get you through college football season, celebrate the college basketball season, and everything else. Thanks for tuning in, and have a good one, everyone.